All right.
All right, so we have some questions and wonderings from Jing mowers today.
Mm-hmm.
Nenad and Massimo. Massimo and Nenad. Should we give a little backstory?
Sure.
They're Jing mowers.
Yeah, they are.
Nenad started back in Elder Street when I was a young dude.
I think it might have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, when I was 4.
Yep. 4 or 5, yeah.
Cool. But now he's back with his son.
Yes.
What, 17?
Yes.
16, 17?
Vladimir
The old son.
in year 12.
All right, so let's do Nanad's one
Sure,
first.
okay.
So it's a video.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
I noticed that I have different energy levels on different days. And I'm trying and wondering, is there a way to manage those energy levels in a way that every time when I come to training or to certain tasks, that I can have that energy level at that kind of...
So tell us about Tuesday and tonight. What was the difference?
But on Tuesday I felt full of energy and I did all push-ups and warming exercises without any problem. Whereas tonight and on Thursday, I feel like the aching of my body and everything, and the whole energy level is different. So it's more of a struggle than of really pushing it.
Yeah. So what do you want to know exactly?
How to maintain that to be every time when I come to training that I have that energy level. What would be thing to practice to have it at every time? Okay.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
All right, well, it sounds like he's talking about his energy levels when he comes to training.
Yes.
So his question there was, towards the end, what can he practice to maintain his energy levels better in training?
So he noticed on Tuesday, so this was shot on a Thursday, and he's commenting on the Tuesday night immediately prior, 2 days before, how he felt really, really energetic and so on.
Yep.
And then he came Thursday and he didn't feel the same energy, felt lethargic, and he wants to find a way of maintaining high energy levels all the time. So for those who are listening and not viewing it, to give you a little bit of history, as you mentioned before, Nenad was here 20 years ago.
Yep.
He's this year 60 years old.
Okay.
And he's
60,
a fit,
really?
60. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, he's a fit,
Didn't know
active man. His youngest child is 17. I think his eldest is 30. He still works every day, has a large property up in the hills, and he just has to keep going, right, to maintain. So energy levels are high. All right, specifically to answer the question, first and foremost, we've got to separate the two theories. You've got a Western theory and an Eastern theory, and it's very typical to see that from a Western point of view that things are very measurable, right? And therefore we can manipulate things in order to be able to maintain certain outcomes. And that's a very stereotypical, probably I could say comfortably a masculine approach to problems, right?
Measuring it, getting out there and sorting it out, finding an answer to the problem and so on. My approach is actually a little more Eastern in that it's actually about noticing what's happening in the body and being able to support myself working through that, because we're a complex organism. It's not as simple as saying, well, this is my belief. It's not as simple as saying, well, if I take a blood test and these elements in my blood are low, so I should take supplements to bring those up, then that fixes the problem. Well, it's not that simple, because there is a cause to why those things are low. And if I just keep approaching it from a symptomatic point of view, sorting out what I notice is wrong and not deal with the cause of the imbalance, then the cause will continue to keep coming back, and so on and so forth. Becomes a loop.
Yeah, it loops. So my approach is more Eastern holistic point of view, and that is the mind, body and spirit make up the whole. My mental, physical and emotional self will show up in my body in a certain way. So there are times for me, so Nenad, there are times for me when this is week 105 of my 100 weeks, 100 years a week.
And there are times when I'm extremely, extremely tired. Now, I first started off seeing that at the very beginning of my 100 weeks journey as being a problem. And the problem is, I've got low energy levels, so I mustn't be feeding my body right. Let's get some high energy foods into me, stimulate, coffee, whatever, and see if I can force my way through. So, I might be able to fix that for that one instance, and then there's the flip side, the bounce back, is that I'm even more tired when I come off that high.
Yep.
So it becomes a bit of a snowball effect. It just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. The other thing that could be typically a typical approach is, I'm tired, so I won't exercise because my body needs a rest. Now, I'm not saying that my approach is the correct approach. It's just another approach. But what I can report on is that in the times where I'm extremely tired, by doing exercise, what I'm doing is I'm stimulating my chi circulation, and therefore my body feels more alive and less tired afterwards. So even to the point of when I have illness, as in a virus that I can't remember when it was, end of last year sometime, that my body was fighting from a Monday through to a Wednesday. And what I continued to do was my daily practice, but I reduced my daily practice intensity. I just didn't have the energy. It's not like I reduced it because I chose to reduce it. That's all I had. I only had about 10% of my usual energy.
Yep.
So I did my practice, still the same volume of practice, but at the maximum intensity I could give, which was about 10%, felt like 10% of what I normally would give. And I felt so much better after having practiced, even though my body was clearly fighting the virus. And I put it down to, if there's three parts of me, mind, body, spirit, by doing practice, at the very minimum, I'm improving my mind and my spiritual self, my mental and physical self. And therefore, what I leave behind is my body to fight the virus. So it's a physical thing. So Nenad, what I would say to you is that it's okay to feel lethargic on a Thursday. And there's probably, we're complex. There are so many things that would affect our energy levels. And my encouragement is to continue your regime of practice, but reduce the intensity. So only give what you can afford to give, rather than expect to always give at 100%. Because once we start in that cycle of manipulating my energy levels, then it becomes a circuit, a bit of a closed circuit. And at any age, but in particular when we're around 60 years of age, that is can be quite a risky activity to get into, especially at the age of 60. And let me frame up why 60. It's not that 60 is old. So in my background in traditional Chinese medicine, what I was taught was that the human body, according to the ancient texts, was built to live 120 years. In that 120 years, there are 3 cycles. The very first cycle is where we have exponential growth. So we go from a baby to a child, and we just grow exponentially all over. Everything is growing, and never proportionally. So things get bigger and the other side doesn't. You can't say both kidneys grow at the same time, both lungs grow at the same time, both arms grow at it's stuff's happening. But it's exponential. Then near the end of our journey, from about 70 or 80 through to 120, there's a slow decline. So the beginning is a very steep incline over a short period of time, from 0 to about 10, 12. And then from 70 or 80 to 120 for 40 years or so, we are slow decline. And then in between, the longest period we call consolidation. So that consolidation is when our body matures, kind of thickens. And the best word I use in my head, when I say when something matures, it kind of, everything gets solid. So we learn more about ourselves, we experience life differently, we start to think about our purpose and our journey in life. Our physical body changes, all sorts of stuff like that.
Yep.
Now, in those 3 phases, there's 2 different types of exercise. So from traditional Chinese medicine's point of view, there's exercise that is rejuvenating and there's exercise that is depleting. Depleting exercise is a sort of exercise that we would do in our exponential growth. So we have to impact the body really hard. And the impact, incidentally, so the definition between depleting and rejuvenating exercise is that exercise must leave us with perspiration. Okay, so if I perspire, doesn't include hot weather.
Okay.
But after activity, when I perspire, I've exercised from a TCM perspective. My heart rate has risen. Okay. And then the third thing is, if I am short of breath, so I'm panting, that's depleting exercise. If I'm not short of breath, I'm not panting, then that's a rejuvenating exercise. So they're the 2 definitions, and it doesn't matter what we practice. So you can practice Kung Fu with the context of replenishing, rejuvenating, or you can practice Kung Fu as a depleting exercise.
Yep.
The only difference is, apart from the common one, perspiration, elevated heart rate, whether you practice to a point of shortness of breath. If you don't end up short of breath, then you've rejuvenated your energy. If you do end up short of breath, you've depleted. Now, what does that mean? Basically, what it means is when we deplete energy, we're asking the body to come back harder and produce more energy. When we rejuvenate, what we're doing is we are holding and nurturing the energy that we have at that time. So, logic will tell us that depleting exercise happens in the first exponential growth stage. Rejuvenating exercise happens at the end, when we are in our elder years. And then when we're in our consolidation years, we get to choose both. Right? Now, so Nenad, you and I are now reaching the end of our consolidation period. Therefore, it makes sense from a traditional Chinese medicine's point of view that our exercise must rejuvenate. Otherwise, what we do is it's kind of like we're driving the car by putting our foot down on the accelerator unnecessarily. We're driving it hard, getting from one set of traffic lights to the next in the shortest amount of time. We're going to run out of fuel. The fuel station is still 5 kilometers up the road, but the person who drives mindfully, without over accelerating and using petrol, will get to the fuel station. We may not, because we burn it out too fast. So that analogy about driving I use all the time for myself, and measure my everyday activity. Like, my aim is I'm here till 103. That's it. So don't ask me why. You probably wonder, why, Dad? Why is it 103? I don't know. It's a number that's come into my head, and I'm sticking with it. So, given that I'm celebrating my 55th birthday this year, I'm about halfway.
Yep.
So my objective now is that I'm here to stay another cycle of my life. Therefore, being careful and nurturing my body is important. So, that's how I approach it. So every day I approach it the same way. And I've got this to-do list that is as long as yours, and we go as hard as we can. But I definitely don't push my body, because I think about the fuel station. Yeah. I'm very particular about what actually has to happen, what must happen, and what would be nice to happen. It would actually maybe make no difference, but just it'd be nice that it happened.
Yeah.
So I let go of those ones and make sure I just focus my energy on the absolute, the must-dos. So Nenad, to answer your question, how do you? There is no how do you do that. How do you have the same high energy levels?
Which question was, what do I practice?
Exactly. Well, what do I practice so that I have the high energy levels as I did? The answer is, don't practice to increase your energy levels. Practice because that is your daily routine. And then not practice with the outcome in mind, but practice being open and mindful of what you're receiving right there and then.
Yep.
And then everything else will sort itself out.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced some energy levels lately, Nanette, and I have a history of the energy levels because I don't have a thyroid gland anymore, and when I did, mine was faulty. So I was falling asleep everywhere because one of the main jobs of the thyroid is to monitor your metabolism and your energy levels. So I take thyroxine on a daily basis. But what I've realized recently, towards the end of last year, on the long days of Tuesday and Thursday when we have morning class and then evening class, I get to about lunchtime and I feel really drained, and it doesn't matter how much I nap during the day, I just feel like I've only got space physically and mentally to do the autopilot thing. It's just I get through it, then I get home and I go to bed, and it hasn't been very fun because I feel like I burn myself out all the time. So this year I was kind of you use the word critical, but not on a negative sense, just mindful of what I'm doing, and decided to get some more sleep, as obvious as it is, but it didn't seem obvious. It just felt like, I get 1 or 2 hours there, it doesn't make a difference, but it makes a real big difference. And I didn't notice it until this week when on Monday night, I didn't get as much sleep as I have this year. And this year I've been feeling great. Like by now, I'm not as tired as I have that same feeling, if that makes sense. But yeah, so this week on Tuesday morning and Tuesday day, I felt so drained, heavy head, back to that feeling from last year, and I.
That's because Monday night you had to stay back.
Yes, but that was a good thing because it made me realize how I've been going this year. Like it was like a checkpoint. Monday night didn't get enough sleep. Tuesday I was back to that feeling and just reflecting, practicing. What's the difference? I didn't get much sleep. So then last night, which was Wednesday, so I woke up on Thursday morning, make sure I got enough sleep, and I'm back at what I call for myself a high energy level, and being able to think creatively and have the space to do extra things in my mind or do physically as well. And yeah, it didn't seem as obvious to me as it is, but more sleep really helps as well. But like you said, we're all complex, so for me, right, more sleep helps, but might not for Nenad. He might be getting lots of sleep, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.